This is the Volvo V40 Cross Country, and while I was making the introduction to this video, I was racking my brain trying to figure out who this car was built to appeal to, and I was struggling. See, it's all very Volvo and very not Volvo at the same time. It is Volvo because, like every Volvo I spoke about on this channel, it is a very decent doer of all trades and a master at few. That is by no means a bad thing. It makes these cars fantastic. But then on the other side of things, it's not very Volvo because from the outside, it feels confused, like it doesn't know what it's trying to be. It's trying to be too many things at once, and it's just not a very Volvo car. All the Volvos know what they're trying to be. They don't try and be something else. But see, the thing is, I make these introductions before I drive the cars, and, well, I was completely wrong. It knows exactly what it wants to be, and it knows exactly who it appeals to.
Before we get started, I'd like to say another massive thanks to Graham, Leon and the rest of the team at Horton Cars for access to this V40. Any Volvo fancies to tickle or problems to fix, they are your guys. Visit their website to see this car and many others. Oh, and while you're there, visit my website too, scottoncars.co.uk, to read my brand new blog, get the links to the rest of my social media, and to seek specialist car buying advice, tailored to you. Enough chat, let's get back to the video.
Now see, fundamentally what this car is a more Volvo version of a Volvo V40. Make that make sense? Okay, well, the V40 was built just like the C30 to appeal to a younger audience with its R-design trims and cool shape lights design. But see, the V40 Cross Country, it keeps the basis, the foundations of this. It has that nice swoopy shape. It has decent style to it. It is quite a stylish looking thing. But it's jacked up a bit and gets cladding and all these additional things that just make it appeal more to a traditional Volvo buyer. It's more comfortable, it is more capable, and it is, quite frankly, just a better all-round car. That is what this car is, a better version of the Volvo V40. Let's address the first trade-off that you get when you get the XC, and that is the looks. So starting off at the front, you get these pre-facelift headlights, which are very normal for the V40. This car is essentially from the front just a lower spec V40. Now it is worth mentioning that this is a Japan import version, so it's not going to be a spec that you get in the UK. What that does mean is that this car has a very unique engine. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'll give you a quick little taster of it though. You do get these little black bits of cladding, and that kind of is a theme for the XC that continues throughout the car. More black cladding down there, just to make sure you don't scrape your nice paint. You then get these roof rails, unique to the Cross Country, and obviously it is a bit higher. Now this car is not an awful spec. It's got so much equipment inside, you'll see later. But because it's a Japan market car, the wheels don't match up to the spec of the car. Now, there's nothing wrong with them. They just don't have the style appeal that a V40 normally has. But it does just mean that this car is even more capable as a comfortable and actually as an off-road car as well, because this does have four-wheel drive as it is a more powerful engine. You get these massive chunky tyres because of how small the wheels are. They are only 16 inches. And unlike R-Design cars, you get black mirrors. The R-Design cars get silver mirrors. You got your window tints on your side, and then moving around the back, you get your window tints on the back. Now it is very Volvo because of these signature tail lights that go up the quarter panel. More black cladding, which is probably the flimsiest part of a Volvo I've ever seen, but I think it's meant to be like that. Cross Country branding on the bottom, dual exhausts. Again, this is a more higher powered car, and to be honest, it is just a less stylish and more beefed up version of a V40. You do get somewhat of a spoiler. The car doesn't look bad by any means. It's just not quite as aggressive, as poised and as stylish, attractive to a younger market as a regular V40. Nothing wrong with that though, because Volvos appeal to everyone. Alright, so I mentioned that it's a unique engine, so what do you actually have under here? Well, it is the same, it's not the same, it's fundamentally a Ford Focus ST engine, the 5-pot. However, it is only a 2-litre car. So Volvo have essentially shrunk the engine, made it more compact to get in here, be a bit more economical, while still making all those fantastic 5-cylinder noises and having just as much pulling power. So this car has roughly 250 brake horsepower, plenty of torque, and it sounds absolutely incredible. Well done, Volvo. Ingenious. They did that on their diesel cars as well, the older D3 and D4s. It really does work. Now, on the inside of this car, in the front, it is a very relaxing and high quality place to be. It feels like this car was built to last. And with that 5-cylinder engine, hoping it should be. You've got nice soft touch materials everywhere, high quality, sturdy stuff. Even moving down here, it gets a little flimsier, but there's no problems. You then have this fabric, which is unique to the XC models. I don't really know what they are, but it's nice. Makes a change from your standard leather and it doesn't get boiling hot in the sun. Now, the seats, they aren't fully leather, which means they're not quite as comfortable as in most Volvos, but they are by no means uncomfortable. If anything, they are more supportive because they're less squidgy and they kind of hold you more. I guarantee you have this car, you will have no back problems. It is fantastic for that. Now, the view over the road is obviously better than in your standard V40, and the adjustment in the seat is plentiful. It's electrically operated in every way you could possibly imagine. The seats are also heated and have memory. Does everything. Now, you'd probably be surprised that the seats aren't leather, because that is normally a higher spec option, and this car has so much spec. Now, you've got your adaptive cruise control, you've got lane keep assist, parking sensors everywhere, heated seats, aircon, cameras, reverse camera, you've got your bliss, blind spot information. It's got everything, and the sound system is also incredible. Sat nav, and I've said it before, in pictures, the screens on these cars look too small, they look bad quality, but I think they are perfect. They are the perfect size. They show the right amount of information. The only criticism I do have about the infotainment system is that there's too many menus. It's too complicated to use. But once you know how to do it, you work past that. You know where your most important things are and how to get to them. Not a problem. Plenty of headroom in the front. Plenty of adjustment. I've got so much space. Let's just see if that space continues in the back. Alright, so how practical is the car in the back and in the boot? Now, this car obviously is raised, so it is easier to get a child seat in that sense. You don't have to lean and climb. But the door opening, it just needs to be a bit bigger. When you shut the door, this isn't sufficient either. I want it to go the whole way down. I can't stand it when cars don't do that. Apart from that, though, I do like the way that they have made the V40 in the back. How often are you going to be carrying 3 passengers when you go for this kind of car? Not that often. Now, what Volvo have done is they have moved the outside seats inwards to give it more space, make it more spacious and comfortable. Legroom is actually on par with an XC60 when it's in my rearmost position. My knees are pretty much touching the seat, but it's not causing a problem. It's actually quite nice. I can just rest them against, and I can slide my feet under the floor. Obviously, the trade-off is the middle seat. I would not want to spend more than 3 minutes on this middle seat. The back of it is very harsh. The cushiony bit is fine, but yeah, you don't want to be spending excess amounts of time in this middle seat. This seat then, with a less far back position, yeah, very, very nice. Now, the windows are a bit too far away, so it's a bit claustrophobic, but it's not a problem. I've got enough headroom. If you're over 6'3", you might struggle, and if the car had a pan roof, then it would be worse off, but this one doesn't. Yeah, there's no problems back here. It's not causing me fuss, and it could probably be a bit more spacious, but for a jacked up hatchback, I think it does a decent job. Let's see if the boot is just as good. One thing to add is that the Cross Country appeals much more to people a bit older or with disabilities or back problems, because it's much easier to get in and out of the back and the front because of that raised ride height. It also makes the car more comfortable for those demographics too. Okay, so in the boot, I'll be completely honest, motoring journalists have made such a fuss about this car and the boot. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, it's a bit higher and the opening could be wider, but it's really not as big a deal as people make it out to be. There's plenty of space. lots of adjustability, a massive false floor. The seats fold down with ease, and that makes it even bigger. I mean, people do like to make a fuss. You can even sit and have your lunch. Right, so what is the V40 like to drive? Well, let's start it off on a country road, and it's a bit of a blind one. So power is absolutely plentiful. That is 57, we'll call that 60. And I mean, yeah, you're never going to be finding yourself wishing this car had more power. It has everything you could ever need. You can put it into sport mode, and that does generally make a difference to the throttle responsiveness. Around the corners then, let's just back off from this van to just see. The four-wheel drive helps you because you never go round a corner and feel like you're not going to come out. The only thing this car lacks isn't grip, isn't capability, it's feedback. So you kind of go round a corner and it feels vague. You're not really sure how it's coping. The only thing that kind of gives you a hint as to how it's coping is a tyre screech, and it's not easy. It's quite easy to make these massive tyres on tiny wheels screech when you go around a corner. It never feels uncomposed. I'm never scared that I'm not going to make it out. You can feel a bit of body roll. It's nothing major compared to a normal V40. It's going to be a little bit different, but I'd never say, oh, don't go for the Volvo V40 Cross Country because it can't handle. That's completely false, especially if you go for one of the four-wheel drive models. It handles just fine. Alright, coming into a little village then. This is a great village to see how the car copes around town over the speed bump, and wow, I hardly felt a thing. It doesn't feel like a big car because it isn't a big car. You have a nice good view out the road. Visibility is fine in every way, shape and form. You've got a... Am I telling a lie there? No, I'd say the rear windscreen is just fine. It could be a bit larger, but I say that because I'm used to my Volvo C30 and it doesn't really get much larger than that in terms of rear windscreen. Having a look over the shoulder, and the B pillar does get in the way a little bit, but this specific car is coated in cameras, so you're never going to have an issue. You've also got blind spot monitoring there, which means if I am going around the car and something appears, I know it's there. You've also got your lane keep assist, your adaptive cruise. I'll show you how all that fares later on. And yeah, even making maneuvers is easy. The steering is nice and light around town. As I said, it does get a bit vaguer when you speed up. I say the steering is nice and light around town, and it is. But if you want to use that light steering to make a tight maneuver, you can forget it, because this is a typical Volvo. You cannot do maneuvers. You cannot do a U-turn. It's always going to be a three-point turn. And what blows me away is that in 1992, the Volvo 940, that was an incredibly maneuverable car. I've driven that, and it's probably the best turning circle I've driven. It's really weird. Over this bump then, and 16 mile an hour, that's the speed you'd normally take a bump like that, and complete comfort. I'm not getting jolted, I'm not getting thrown, I'm not bracing myself, I'm just going over it. Absolutely fine. I would say, because it's not that boaty and because it still handles just fine, and even the normal V40 has been described as vague, I would say that if you're worried about how the car drives, to just go for the cross-country version, because it keeps you far more comfortable than a regular V40, especially if you go R design, without a massive trade-off in handling. That's my opinion anyway. Alright, let's pop onto our favourite dual carriageway, the A34, and hope that it's not traffic galore. I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. Again, we'll test the power, just to check the last time wasn't a fluke, I guess. And they're stopped on the slip road, even better. Even bloody better. Why would you move back over? Yeah, that's 60, that's plenty fast enough. Already Bliss is doing me a favour because I don't even have to look in my mirror. I know I can't move out. And cruising at 55 is very relaxing. The car is incredibly quiet, a little bit of road noise, next to no wind noise, and the sound of the engine, which is quite a loud engine, it is a 5-pot, completely goes. It sounds good when you want it to sound good, and it's silent when you want it to be silent. They've really mastered that engine with this car. Moving out then, and let's activate our adaptive cruise. So I've set it to 70 mile an hour, and it will just keep me complete distance, and yeah, incredibly relaxing. This car's seats are not the best Volvo seats I've been in. They aren't leather, and they're not anywhere near as nice as the ones in that 940 I reviewed. But that would be difficult to match. In terms of economy, I have been averaging, I think, about 30 miles per gallon. Let's just double check that theory. 27.4, but that is with a few sending its. Obviously trying to get a feel for the whole car. A34 being A34, we've hit some traffic, and to be honest, I think this is where adaptive cruise is even better. You've got your 6-speed automatic gearbox with adaptive cruise, and you just have to do nothing except hold the wheel. Very intelligent for a 63 plate car. I'm impressed. So what is my verdict on the V40 Cross Country? Specifically, a Japanese import 2 litre. But this kind of applies across the board. I think it's an incredibly underrated car. This car got too much slack when it came out. Okay, it was quite expensive, but now you can get some really good deals on these. It was £1,000 more than the normal V40. They're about the same sort of price now. If you can find one that's good spec and does all this, and if you can afford this engine, I say if you can afford, if you drive it sensibly, it's easily capable of 40 miles per gallon. But then you have the option to put your foot down and make yourself laugh and smile and be happy. But then you also have the option to be happy and relaxed. Like, you get into I feel like this is the kind of car where you have a long day at work and you're glad that this is what you drive home. You've got to drive, you've got to sit in traffic, but you don't mind because you've got a good sound system, you've got sheer comfort, you've got this nice ride height. This car works perfectly as an all year round daily driver. If you've got a second car that could provide a bit more fun for you, I would completely recommend you get this car as your daily driver. Maybe in that case though you opt for a diesel. If you want the best of both worlds and you can't have a second car, get the T5. Find a nice Jap import T5. Get this one. It's for sale. Horton Cars. Check them out. HortonCars.com. Check me out. ScotlandCars.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you've been swayed by people that this isn't a good car, you've been swayed back the other way, because I've been superbly impressed by it.